What's up, everybody? Good morning. Hello. Welcome to Philly with Jon Marks on PHLY. As always, presented by Bet Parks. And the Eagles covered that 4-point spread. It went up to 4 before kickoff last night. Good morning. Hello to everybody out there on the chat, chatting it up. Our mad chatters, if you're watching live on YouTube. By the way, you can watch now on Xfinity. If you're watching live on Xfinity, just talk into the remote, say PHLY or use the search, but I just say PHLY. Boom, you can watch all of our programming, Philly with Jon Marks, live at 8 a.m. Our podcast listeners that are listening a little bit later after the show, if you're watching on demand on YouTube, what is up? Good morning. The Eagles won. The Eagles won a game, and if you watched yesterday's show, I wanted a decisive win. I talked about style points, and I talked about a couple of other things. But for the most part, I wanted to leave the game saying the Eagles are the better football team. That is clear. And the Eagles now are ready to march into the home stretch here. And this is a Super Bowl team. This is a team that can win the Super Bowl this year. This is a team that can win the NFC. Let's go. And that is exactly how I feel after last night's game. My grandfather and pretty much every sports radio caller that I've ever taken that is now over the age of 65 or 70 would always say, how you win championships is running the football and playing great defense. And young, cocky, wise-ass Jon Marks would kind of laugh and say, it's about quarterback play. It's not about running the football on defense. You're a freaking dinosaur. Well, with this team right here, the key to them and the path for them, and they're at their absolute best when they're running the football because this defense is dominant. We've seen it now for 6 straight weeks, and their running game is dominant. When the Eagles have been at their best, winning the Super Bowl in 2017, going back to the Super Bowl in 2022, they have run their offense through their running game. It's no different this year. When you can run the football, when you're not overly relying on the pass, and you can, in the fourth quarter, just say, hey, we're going to run the football. You're not going to stop us. We're going to chew up clock. We're going to score. Game over. That's what they did last night. That's what they've done a number of times this year. And it's awesome. It is. It is fantastic. I can't say enough about Saquon Barkley, and we have so many different things to talk about and angles to talk about here, but Saquon Barkley, and I kind of want to wait till later to talk about it, but he leads the league in carries. He leads the league in rushing yards. Now he's got a game in hand, but he has been nothing short of one of the best signings that this franchise has ever made. It's through 10 games, but still, he's on pace to nearly run for 2,000 yards. Look at his numbers: 5.8 yards per carry last night. Didn't get going early. Through 3 quarters, only had 69 yards on 20 carries. Boom. 6 carries, 77 yards, and 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. 2 long touchdown runs, too. That's where this team is at their best. This is the template. This is what the Eagles are going to do. This is how they're going to try to win. This is how they're hopefully going to win. And then Jalen Hurts, you're not relying on him having to throw the ball 30 times, 40 times a game. Hurts bad in the first half last night. Great in the second half, 8 for 9, 120 yards. Just like an overall, not a flashy win, not one of these wins where the Lions are scoring 40-some points and they're winning by 30 points. The Washington Commanders are a very good young football team, and I've watched pretty much every game they've played, whether it's on Red Zone or whatever, on national TV. They're a really good team, and their offense did not look good last night. They had the 4th-ranked offense coming into the game. Jayden Daniels is a dynamic rookie. They have 2 running backs that are physical inside and outside runners that can chunk up, that can chew up yards, that can really be the way that they operate from the offense. Daniels makes plays, he runs around a little bit, and you hand the ball off to 1 or 2 running backs. They couldn't get it going last night. Eagles defense was dominant again. Play great defense and run the football. That's this team. And then Jalen Hurts makes big plays when he needs to make big plays. No bigger play last night than the following 2 plays. The first, I'm just going to throw this out there. Grant Calcaterra with the play of the game. Hustling down, following his battery mate as a tight end. Dallas Goedert, who's wide freaking open. Hurts finds him. He's running down the right sideline. They stripped him. And Calcaterra, when that ball came out, I just thought there was going to be 3 Commanders around the ball and it'd be an easy scoop up. Boom. Washington gets the ball back. And it's like, damn, momentum changing. Calcaterra got it. That was such a huge swing in the game, such a huge spot in the game. And then this part right here, this point right here. And it feels like when it was happening last night, it's like, hang on, this has happened with the Eagles and with and with Nick Sirianni before. Commanders going for it on 4th down when they had an opportunity to kick a field goal and take the lead. So think about it. We're about midway through the 4th quarter. Washington's down 12-10. Eagles just scored a touchdown, but Jake Elliott missed the extra point. More on him coming up in a little bit. So it's 12-10. Washington drives down the field. Made it look pretty easy. 2nd and 1 on the Eagles' 25-yard line. Jalen Carter and the Kobe Dean stuff Brian Robinson, no gain. Now it's 3rd down. And they go for it again. And this is where BG, and man, listen, I have so many things to talk about from this game. But this is where BG and Zach Bond get into the backfield, and BG gets a tackle for a loss. Boom. Loss of 1. So now it's 4th and 2. I was shocked because you're at the 27-yard line, so it's a 44-yard field goal. I was shocked that they went for it, that Dan Quinn decided to go for it. Your offense isn't playing well. This is one of these NFC East games. You take the points, you take the lead, and then you see what happens, right? You hope it changes momentum, and now you got to stop him. He goes for it. Bad snap. The play had very little chances of working, but then Jayden Daniels gets it, and he gets around the corner a little bit. And just watching the game in real time, it's like, oh, bleep. Almost a fumble, but now he's going outside. No, Zach Bond closed on that in a second. The closing speed on this defense from the linebackers and the guys in the secondary is tremendous. They look young and fast in their back 7 because they are. And Zach Bond made a huge play. Stopped them. Boom. Eagles get the ball. And then a late interception by Reed Blankenship, who just seems to be Johnny on the spot in so many different games with late interceptions. Eagles win. And this wasn't the Browns and the Giants and the Jags or Cooper Rush and the Cowboys. This was the number 4 offense coming in the Lincoln Financial Field. I wanted to feel like the Eagles were the better team leaving this game, and there was no decision about it because the Eagles are the better team, and they have already arrived. And Washington last night, you found out, good young team, good young quarterback. They're not there yet. Not on the road, not on Thursday Night Football. And the Eagles, by not necessarily doing it the conventional NFL way in 2024, which is throwing the ball. They just ran the ball down the Commanders' throat in the second half. How about Kenny Gainwell on the one drive that set up a Jalen Hurts touchdown, rushing touchdown? And I'm definitely one of the people that when Saquon comes out and you put Gainwell in, and a lot of times it's in the red zone, so that's why I don't like it. But it's like, oh, what are you putting Gainwell in? You need a good second running back. Gainwell was going in between the tackles. He was going right up the gut. He had 4 runs on that drive that set up a touchdown where he was instrumental. They didn't have to go to the pass. We're going to run the ball down your throat, and you know it's coming, and you can't stop it. That was the Eagles' MO in 2017 and in 2022, and they're doing it again. Gainwell looked good last night. It's everything is rounding into where you want it to be at this point. The Eagles are 8-2. They lead the NFC East by a game and a half over Washington, and they started 8-2 or better in 3 straight seasons for the first time in franchise history. 8-2, 3 straight years. First time ever. We know what happened last year. This team's not collapsing like last year. This team has something special that's going on. How do you win championships, Tyler Zulli? Well, of course you play great defense and you run the football. That's what you do. That's what you do. You don't need elite quarterback play throwing it 50 times a game. The Eagles defense, the running game, Jalen Hurts coming up with huge throws and huge plays in the second half. We do have some things that we can talk about. And listen, we won't be reacting to a game on Monday because Jake Elliott looks like a deer in the headlights out there. And I'm worried about Saquon Barkley and his usage. But anyway, a great win for the Eagles last night. A great win. More to talk about with the defense coming up here in a little bit. Tyler Zulli joins us. What are your quick takeaways from the game last night? How you feeling coming in here a little groggy this morning?
Yeah, I mean, other than the fact that I think we're all probably a little bit tired because, the 8:15 start is a little bit difficult for the people that are getting up on Friday morning, especially when you're battling traffic on 95. But here's what impressed me more than what felt like, obviously more than the 20 points in the fourth quarter where they really put the foot to the pedal and took off. The Eagles' offense was sputtering at one point early in the first half. Here, they had 4 drives, 6 for 11, 3 for 6, 7 for 15, 3 for 6. You take those 4 drives, that was 17, 32, 38 yards on 4 drives. It ended in a punt, a missed field goal by Jake Elliott, and a punt. During that time, the Eagles' defense was terrific. Now, they give up the touchdown to make it 7-0. The next 3 drives, 3 plays and 6 yards, 3 plays and -6 yards, 9 plays and 27 yards. All 3 of those drives resulted in a Washington punt. When this defense was called upon and needed most, it stepped up. It allowed the offense to find its rhythm, to get into a groove. Because after that, here are the drives for the Eagles offense. 15 plays, 87 yards, end the half, or get close to the end of the half with a field goal, make it 7-3. 10 plays, 73 yards, field goal. 11 plays, 76 yards, touchdown. 5 plays, 74 yards, touchdown. 2 plays, 46 yards, touchdown. The way that this team complements each other when it's needed most is so unbelievably impressive.
Complementary football. Yeah.
The defense was swarming when it needed to be because the offense was sputtering. The offense gets going. It gives the defense some extra juice. They get to kind of, pin back a little bit and get after Jayden Daniels. Brandon Graham was terrific. Jalen Carter was terrific. Quinyon Mitchell. I think we've mentioned his name every single week for the last 8 weeks because he's been unbelievable. Zach Bond is probably the pickup of the offseason for this team.
He's being talked about MVP conversation, for a defensive player.
I think between Zach Bond on defense, and this guy's going to go underrated because he's an offensive lineman, but the acquisition of Matvei Michkov and his willingness to play guard has been significant as well, especially with the injuries that have happened on the offensive line. This team playing a cohesive, collective brand of football last night, especially on short rest, especially when your offense kind of sputtered in the first half. Your defense stepped up when they needed them to. The offense comes to life, puts the foot on the pedal. The car just takes off. This is a complete football team right now. It's a really, really good football team right now.
Yeah, outside of and they did score 3 points in the first half. So obviously if there's concerns, it continues to be a concern. But it's a great point with Matvei Michkov because we really haven't talked about it much. But it's another one of these Howie moves. You put him in Stoutland U. You take the pressure of him being a draft pick, a high draft pick, and he's not living up to the reputation. $2.75 million for that 1-year contract, and he steps in. And when you're watching the game last night, because when you run the ball a lot, then you're seeing a lot of look at this run, boom. And Becton, he's using his athleticism. He's huge, so he's mauling people in the run game. You got to love the way that this team is playing right now. We got a lot to talk about. I mean, it was a battle last night too. And when you talk about the defense and you talk about complementary football, that drive at the end of the first half, it's a great point because if you remember, Dan Quinn was using timeouts. He was trying to get the ball back. So if you don't end up converting some of those third downs or continuing to move the chains, Washington maybe gets the ball back because they have the ball coming out after halftime as well. They get the ball back. Who knows what happens, right? So then they get another score before halftime. That changes everything. It does. So the defense was able to hold them. And then, as we've seen many times this year, the offense comes out and they get cooking in the second half. I don't know what they need to do. I don't know why the sluggish starts. I don't know why they look out of sync. And then they get going once they get into the game in the second half. But anyway. All right, well, let's lot with the game, lot going on last night. Also, I mean, listen, I'm not going to lie. I was checking in on the Flyers with a big win last night. Let's get to headlines with Tyler Zulli. Good morning, Tyler.
Yeah, what's going on, John? We'll check back in with you. And, of course, we'll tell you about our friends over at the Glad Hair Restoration Program that are the ones that sponsor our headlines because bald is now optional. And if you want to improve how you look and how you feel, head on over to Glad Hair Restoration because it's not just about restoration. It's about innovation. So head on over to Glad Hair, MCT NPR.com, 610-980-4000 to get started. Yeah, let's start with the Flyers because I know a lot of people, unless you are a diehard Flyers fan, probably had the Flyers on the smaller screen yesterday with the Eagles on the bigger screen. But the Flyers do end up winning in overtime 5-4 over the Ottawa Senators. They were down 4-2 with about 10 minutes to play in the third period last night. Anthony Richard scores to make it 4-3 with about 9.5 to go. Bobby Brink ties it at 4 with about just over 7 to play in the third period. And then they head on into the overtime session, and Matvei Michkov with about 55 seconds left in the game netted a goal. John, I don't know if you saw the goal. I don't know if you saw the replay. I don't know how Michkov put this puck in the net because it was such a tight angle. He was down basically down towards the end line where, I don't know what kind of angle he had to shoot at, but it was an incredible goal. Flyers win 5-4 and win their second consecutive game. They're now 7-8-2 on the regular season.
Yeah, it's where the goalie obviously is tight against the post in that corner, and you're going for really to get lucky, or you're going for a very small space if there is something that was open. Regardless, he put it right where he needed to, because it's one of those shots where it's like, how the hell did he get that in? How did that go? How did that get in?
Unbelievable shot.
Yeah, here's how it goes in. You're the most skilled player on the team, and it's not even close, and you're 19 years old. And it's like, I think we understand this, but I think it's worth repeating. He's 19 years old, and he's playing with men, with veterans that are in their 20s and 30s. And not only is he holding his own, and he's going to have growing pains, but he's their best offensive player. He's one of their best offensive players, and it's fun to watch the first year of him before our eyes. It's awesome.
I'm trying very quickly to grab a screenshot of that shot and show you on the screen where he was. This is from TSN's broadcast last night, so I'll show you in just 1 second. This is the angle at which Matvei Michkov ended up scoring the goal. Now it's a little bit the color gradient's kind of off because screenshots are weird on streaming platforms and whatnot. But this is from TSN. This is the angle in which he took this shot last night. He's here. He's down on the end line. How do you score from there?
It's like when Larry Bird used to shoot the three from behind the backboard and he would swish it. That's the hockey equivalent of that. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, so the Flyers win last night 5-4. Sixers back at it tonight. They'll head on to Orlando for a 3-game road trip, head to Orlando to begin a 3-game road trip. They'll take on the Magic tonight in group stage game number 2 of the NBA Cup. So I'm curious to see what atrocities await us for the Magic's floor tonight after the bright blue floor the Sixers produced a couple days ago.
Yeah, well, listen, let's I want to concentrate on good things like the Eagles. We'll see.
Real quick, and we'll give you one more stat before we get back to the Eagles conversation surrounding the Eagles, because I think this is worth noting. Brandon Graham, you mentioned him in the open today. He is a half a sack away from tying Clyde Simmons for third all-time on the Eagles sack list. He has 75.5 sacks. Clyde Simmons is at 76. Now, I don't think that BG is going to end up getting to number 2 unless he does decide to play another season, which he might because he's playing really good football. But Trent Cole has 85.5, so he still needs 10 to get to Trent Cole. Might be kind of tough. Obviously, no one's getting in their right mind is catching Reggie White. He's at 124. But Brandon Graham could slide into at least third place all-time on the Eagles sack list by the end of maybe by the end of next week, but by the end of the season, almost assuredly.
All right. Well, I have more coming up on Brandon here in a second. It just goes to show you, like with saying that stat, how good Trent Cole was, right? Like we knew he was a Pro Bowl player, but being second on the all-time sack list of the Eagles, and there have been really, really good ends and really, really good players on defense. So Trent Cole was an amazing player. All right. So listen, we will get right back to the Eagles conversation in just 1 second. But we have to speak about our good friends at CentralCityToyota.com. That's right. And it's just not our good friends down there, but it's my Uncle Jamie. Yes. I have been a customer of Central City Toyota since I bought my first new car. First new car that I purchased, Central City Toyota, back in 2005, Toyota Corolla. And since then, I've had a RAV4, I've had a Camry, I've had a Highlander, I've had another Highlander. We have a Sienna, the minivan. So it is really like it's a family thing with me. And I'm just telling you, Central City Toyota in the heart of University City, it's been there. They've been there 55 years on Chestnut Street. How do you last that long? Well, you last that long with having an amazing business, great customer service, repeat customers like me, because they know once they get you in the door, you're going to come back for your next car. You're going to come back for your next car. You're going to go for service. You're going to tell your friends. You're going to tell your family. That is Central City Toyota. A one-price approach. There's no pricing games. Everything's transparent and easy. And they have the largest service and parts dealership in the city of Philadelphia. So go in, talk to my Uncle Jamie if you're looking to purchase, if you're looking to upgrade your ride, or maybe you want the service, right? So if you work in the city, you can drop your car off, get it serviced, take the shuttle on to work, and then come back. Or they offer this. You have to make an appointment for it, but pick-up and delivery service. They'll come pick your car up, service it, return it to you while you're at work. You won't even know what happened. You don't have to go sit at a Pep Boys on a Saturday afternoon. CentralCityToyota.com, an amazing selection of certified vehicles. And listen, if you're on a budget, maybe you're looking for a car for the kid, they do have cars under $12,000. CentralCityToyota.com, CentralCityToyota.com. All right, Bet Parks. Oh, man, I was on Bet Parks last night. I was like, should I do some live betting? Did I take the Eagles before it went up to 4 points? You would have been wise if you went 3.5. It went up to 4. They got the cover. That's the only sportsbook app I would ever recommend. It's Bet Parks and the Bet Parks Sportsbook app and online casino. It's also Pennsylvania's #1 casino. It's right in the Philly burbs. Parks Casino. This is how you win. The Excite Center at Parks Casino. It's the only place that I go. Tickets on sale right now for amazing acts like Richard Kind from Curb Your Enthusiasm, Jerry Cantrell from Alice in Chains. That's February 8th. Comedian Ron White, March 21st. Country star Lee Bryce, March 22nd. And coming up this weekend, Bret Michaels. That is tomorrow night. Tyler missed the Eagles game last night because the lead singer of Sugar Ray was playing. But comedian Eric D'Alessandro. And the great thing is the Excite Center is amazing. You go check out a show. But dinner and drinks before or after. Liberty Bell Gastropub, amazing burgers. Parks Grill Steakhouse. If you like high-end steak, that's what it is. Bamboo Noodle House and more. ParksCasino.com to buy tickets for all the shows. Parks Casino, this is how you win. You must be 21. Gambling problem. Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Now, John, I will tell you, I know you give me a lot of flack for one time I talked about Sugar Ray. I probably will go see Jerry Cantrell. I'm a huge Alice in Chains fan. Now, I don't know if it's going to be this. I don't know what kind of set it's going to look like.
I was actually going to say it to you during it that you seem like you'd be an Alice in Chains fan.
A huge Alice in Chains fan.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. That would be. If you want to go, let me know. I know some people over it.
I've seen them a couple of times, obviously with William Duvall as the lead singer. I didn't get a chance to see Lane Staley before he passed. But they were tremendous. Really, really good live showing. I'm sure Jerry Cantrell's just as good.
Oh, there you go. Take the now with is your wife an Alice in Chains fan, or would you have to find a heavy metal fan?
So it's funny. I'll tell you this story real quick. My wife went to one metal show with me, and it was because I had a couple of buddies that I was supposed to go with, and things came up and they weren't able to go. So I had a ticket, but I had like a solo ticket, and she's like, "Do you just want me to go with you? Like, I'll go buy a ticket." And I'm like, "You don't have to do this. I feel bad. You do not have to do this." So she goes. She stands there. I was like, we don't have to be in the pit. Like, we'll go up top. We'll go to like the bar area.
Right.
We walk in and we're a couple minutes into the opening band coming on. And she just looks at me and she's like, what the bleep am I doing here? And I'm like, there's 3 bands on tonight. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Were you there to see Hatebreed?
No, it was, I was there to see Trivium.
All right.
It was Trivium, Avatar, and Light the Torch.
So the first and only metal show that your wife went to?
Yes, I don't anticipate her going to another one.
Probably not. I
give her a ton of credit. She noticed I was like super bummed because I didn't think I was going to be able to go.
She stepped up.
And she stepped up big time. I gave her a ton of credit for it, but I don't think she's going to be back.
All right, well there you go. Yeah, well you can go to it'll be a nice the Excite Center at Parks Casino. It'll be nice. All right, so we've said this a couple times now this year, where it's like, is Brandon Graham really going to retire after this year? And you watch him play, and we're 10 games in. There's 7 games left. Jason Kelce was still playing at a very high level. Jason Kelce also was, if you watch the documentary, he was strongly considering, at least he in the documentary, he was strongly considering retiring, which I never believed he was. And if you watch the documentary, did you watch the Kelce documentary, Tyler Zulli?
I did not. I'm sorry.
Really?
Did not. No, I'm not. It's funny. I'm not a big documentary guy.
Oh man, I could watch documentaries all day long. But I mean, I watch it because I starred in it. That's why I probably really watched it. So my voice was in it because they used a ton of WIP audio in it.
See, that's cool. That's pretty awesome.
Well, it's cool until I'm prominently featured where it's, if you remember when Kelce, it was like free agency was coming up and it's like, all right, Kelce's like, oh, he doesn't know if he's going to retire. He's going to come back. And it's like, all right, dude, listen, they have decisions they need to make, right? Like, I get it. You don't want to retire. You do want to retire, whatever. But, like, give me a break. You're coming back. So I kind of had, like, I got annoyed after a while that this is like, all right, listen, you're not retiring. Stop. All right, you're coming back. We know you're coming back. Enough with this whole thing, right? Little did I know he's being, a camera's following him around during this whole freaking process during the Super Bowl, after the Super Bowl, and for the season. So you can hear me in the background. And there's a picture of Kelce. And God, he's so dramatic. And I love him, but he's so dramatic. There's a picture of him, and he's like this, Tyler. He's like crying, like what am I going to do? Like, oh, man. And me in the background being like, all right, Jason, listen, I get it. But, like, are you coming back or not? And everybody's reaction was, man. And I'm like, yeah, I stand by it. Like, on that day, I always say this to people. When you do sports radio, and everybody wants you to just wait until the game's over and wait till the season's over before you pass judgment. And like, well, can't you just give the team more time? I got a show to do every friggin' day at whenever, right? I don't have time to let everything play out and to not react to what's going on in front of me, right? I don't get that opportunity. I don't get to wait to see whether he's coming back or he's not. I got to react that day. I got 4 hours to fill every day, right? So yeah, I was like, Jason, and by the way, I was right. Like, Jason, you're coming back. We know you're coming back. Enough of this. Stop playing it out. Stop drawing it out. So anyway, yes, I was featured in the Kelce documentary a couple times. But anyway, back to Brandon Graham. I did the Brandon Graham show every Monday with Brandon during football season for 7 seasons. And, like during those years when you're not on the mic during commercial breaks and you're talking to him and you're asking him questions that you know that you're not going to come out and say, hey, Brandon told me this last night, but you're getting a feel for what's going on with the team, what's going on with him. And I remember the Super Bowl year, he was playing with a bad ankle injury and he was playing through it. And he had to have surgery in the offseason after they won the Super Bowl. And he was in the final year of his contract. And what is he going to do? They couldn't come to an agreement, so he played out the final year of his contract. And I remember talking to him about it, both on the air and off the air. And Brandon's not the kind of guy that's going to hold out or is going to come in and be a problem. He's like, all right, like things will take care of itself. I'm going to come out. I'm making a good salary for this year, and I'll be a free agent. And then what's going to happen? He ends up re-signing with the Eagles. Had a good year. But after talking to him during last year, and we didn't even really know halfway through the season or during the season, like you coming back, it was very clear to me that he was not retiring. Because when you talk to him about like, hey, you're approaching these milestones or whatever, his reaction always was, oh, I'm not done playing. So I wonder if he really is done playing or if he felt like he should be done playing. Does that make sense? Right? Like you come out, this is the final year. It's his 15th season. He's played the most games in franchise history. His name I believe his jersey gets retired, and it should be retired. There's nobody on this team that is more important to what this team became. You have Jason Kelce, you have Lane Johnson, you have Brandon Graham. Those are the guys from this era, and they should all get their jerseys retired, and I think they will. But it was clear to me he had more in the tank, and he didn't want to stop playing, and he was going to play. And then the Eagles signed him. They came to an agreement on a 1-year contract. I don't think he should retire unless that's really what he wants to do. You watch these games, and it's not just one game. You watched last night's game. He had 32 sacks. I looked before we went on the air, and I found it. He had not sacks. He had 32 snaps last night. He played in 48.5% of the snaps. He had another sack. He had 2 tackles for losses. He had 4 tackles. I think if you watched the game last night, it felt like he was in on more than that. He was all over the place. He's in on pretty much anything that's happening in the backfield. You see the 55. He's getting half sacks, really, where it's like, well, he would have had that sack on his own. Like the one with Milton Williams, I think they gave him a half a sack, and then he had another half sack later. He's not cheesing any of these stats, man. He is playing great football. And I just want to make sure that if he's still got something left in the tank, I want more Brandon Graham. I don't need Brandon Graham to retire. Now, if he really has said, like, I'm at peace with this. This is my last year, and I'm ready to move on and do something else. I'm ready to have a post-football career. More power to you, BG. Whatever you want to do. That's what Jason Kelce wanted to do, and I totally supported it. I don't think Brandon Graham's in that same mindset. He's never talked about retiring other than, like, yeah, this is going to be my last year. So if he wants to come back, man, come back. Come back for another year. Keep playing until you feel like you can't do it anymore and you can't get ready for another season or you're injured. Brandon's been pretty healthy. He's had some significant injuries, but he's been pretty healthy. He still gets around pretty good, and he's had significant injuries. So I'll be curious to see what he does after the season. But he's playing great, man. He's playing great. And here's the other thing. He's the leader that these young guys need, because there's no doubt about it. The young players on this defense is what's making it go. Fletcher Cox played really well last year. He retired. But you look at what's driving this defense right now. Quinyon Mitchell lined up across from Terry McLaurin on 20 of his 25 routes. No targets. Mitchell was not targeted in any of his coverage snaps against McLaurin and was just targeted just once all night. And I think that was on the tight end when he was playing off of him on that third down.
It was Zach Ertz. So he was playing, kind of a loose coverage on Zach Ertz. He ran that stick route and he picked up the first down. That was the only one.
Yep. He has been amazing. But he's not the only young player in that secondary. That's amazing. Reed Blankenship has developed into a Pro Bowl type? Has he developed into a player that is now an above-average starter that makes plays every single game that you watch? And like I look at a guy like Quentin Michael, who was an undrafted player just like Reed Blankenship. He developed into a Pro Bowler. He was a good player for the Eagles. Blankenship has that same look to him. And then you look at Cooper DeJean, who early in the season, first game or two, you wondered, like, all right, I guess he's not ready to play. Maybe the learning curve was a little bit steep, and the NFL's a lot faster than college. And no, this dude's ready to play, man. He's out there, and he'll get beat. He'll give up some yards like everybody does, except for Mitchell in the NFL. But man, if he's giving up receptions, it's not by much. He sticks these wide receivers. He can go up against tight ends. He plays the nickel. You talk about a huge upgrade over Avonte Maddox. Remember Avonte was getting roasted in those early games, and you're like, man, he really sucks. We haven't said that in weeks. We haven't said that about the nickel position in weeks with Cooper DeJean. He is amazing. And one other note with him, because I think he was in on the penalty, on the pass interference. The dummy broadcasters, Al Michaels and Herbie and the rules guy, there was a clear video and picture of the jersey being yanked. The jersey was being stretched. They didn't show the replay until at the end of when they were discussing it. It was clearly pass interference on the play. I don't know if Tyler, if you saw that same thing, the same still picture, but it was clearly pass interference. But anyway, the Eagles have given up one touchdown pass in the last 6 games. And this isn't like last night wasn't Deshaun Watson and Daniel Jones and this crappy team and Cooper Rush or whatever. Last night, that Washington offense with Jayden Daniels has looked excellent all year long. Jayden Daniels didn't look good last night. Jayden Daniels looked like he was playing against the Eagles on the road on Thursday Night Football. He looked like a rookie maybe for the first time last night. Eagles put pressure on you. Not just pass in the passing game, not just sacking the quarterback. They are fast, athletic. and they are unbelievable. Number 4 offense coming in was Washington. Since the bye week, let's get to the offense here for a second. Since the bye week, the Eagles are 6-0. Jalen Hurts has the most touchdowns in the NFL, and a lot of them are rushing touchdowns, which is fine. Saquon Barkley has the most rushing yards since the bye week. They have the number 1 rushing offense. They have the number 1 total defense and the number 1 pass defense. You think about that, what they're doing since the bye week. Saquon Barkley last night, 26 carries, 146 yards, 2 receptions, 52 yards. You remember that one reception where I guess they forgot about him or they lost track of him, and he went down for a big gain. Through 3 quarters, they bottomed him up. He only had 69 carries or 69 yards on 20 carries. Fourth quarter, 6 for 77, 2 touchdowns, 23 yards and 39 yards. On the season, 197 carries for 1,137 yards, 8 touchdowns, 5.8 yards per carry, on pace for 1,932 yards, which he better not get close to because they can't keep using him like this. Saquon Barkley is an elite running back. It makes sense for the Giants to have let him move on, especially after they franchised him and they didn't sign him early. So there was a lot of, what did the Giants do? How the Giants let him leave? It made sense for the Giants to let him move on if they know they're years away. But it's still fun knowing that the Giants fans, it must burn them. The owner, it must burn them to watch Saquon Barkley doing this on national TV. Do we have after the game, Tyler, last night? And there's a couple media people up in New York that they literally watch the Eagles game to watch Saquon Barkley fail, and when he doesn't, they still are, overpaid for him. The Eagles didn't overpay for Saquon Barkley, man. You're telling me this production, you're overpaying for Saquon Barkley? After the game last night on Amazon Prime, they usually get the big star of the game to come out, and they sit with everybody out on the field. Here's how it sounded last night on Amazon Prime.
It feels amazing. It feels amazing. Last year it was, tough year for me mentally. You did a really good job of. We love the Cowboys. I'm gonna stop you for a second.
I'm gonna let the crowd take this one. You guys listen at home. They are saying, "Thank you, Giants."
Thank you, Giants. Herbie said it last night where he doesn't remember seeing Saquon like this, rejuvenated, like realizing he's playing on a really good team with a really good offensive line and a really good defense and an organization that knows how to win. And he is like, wow, this is what it's like to play football. And it's so great to see him with a real organization and a real fan base. Giants fans, it's a baseball town. Yeah. You know what it's like to play for a real organization, a real football city, Saquon Barkley. This is a lot of fun to watch. It is. Now, quickly, one thing. They can't keep using him like this. He's number 1 in carries and number 1 yards. When you design your offense, and we said it runs through Saquon Barkley. This is a running offense, and they're going to play great defense, and Jalen's going to make plays. But you continue to use him like this, and he gets worn down or injured, what happens in the playoffs now? All your success that you've had during the season, and if Saquon's nicked up or God forbid he gets hurt, now what do? You got to change everything that you do. So after these next 2 weeks, I really hope the Eagles kind of dial it back. Like they're using them up right now. Go for it. They're winning games. You can't do this the entire year with them. It's too much. It's too much. They're going to have to dial it back a little bit. It's like the Phillies when they were built, and I think they're built the same way right now. They live and die with the long ball. Well, in October, when it's cold and you're facing really good pitching and really good bullpens, it's harder to hit home runs. And what happens in the playoffs? You don't hit home runs. You don't manufacture runs. Boom. 2 straight years, the Phillies don't hit home runs, and they're out of the playoffs. I don't want to see the same thing happen with the Eagles if Saquon gets slowed down. And now they're saying, hey, coordinators are making us throw the ball to win, and we can't do it. So I think they got to dial back the usage quite a bit here over the last third of the season. All right, we'll finish up with more Eagles talk, and we have our picks coming up as well. Because, listen, Tyler Zulli, 12 games over 500 with his picks. Are you kidding me right now? But we need to have a conversation about TrueMark Financial. Oh man, I'm a huge TrueMark fan. I was on the app last night, transferred some money over from my business checking to my business savings. I enrolled in bill pay. It's just amazing. Their mobile app is a lot of fun. And I'm a customer. I'm so happy. I went into the Trooper branch. Donna helped me set everything up. Mary Ellen, who has been there for 16 years, has been at the branch for 16 years. Her and Donna have worked together for 16 years. There is a certain feel and a certain family to TrueMark Financial. There is. From the minute you walk in, the minute you're greeted, you don't have the typical high teller where you come in and you're behind like almost bulletproof glass. Nope. You sit down and you're like, all right, well, what can I do for you today? And you have a conversation and you get it done. And that's TrueMark. They're amazing. They really are. I can't say enough about TrueMark Financial. So if you're looking for a new bank, maybe you're saying like, we're thinking about getting a house. Well, TrueMark Financial and their mortgage specialists, they're going to set you up and they're going to give you all the information that you need because maybe you do have a lot of questions. Maybe you're a first-time home buyer. I know Tyler's going to be in the market for a house coming up here in the next couple of years. That's why you go to TrueMark, because they give you the customer service that you need if you have a lot of questions. They're not going to be annoyed and be like, oh, well, nope. That's not what they're going to do. TrueMark Financial. Check them out. Do what I did. Become a customer, and you will be so happy. TrueMark Financial. Check them out, TrueMark.com. All right, let's talk about Ace Hardware Home Services. And now I see it almost every time that I drive home on 76, the big Ace thing, and it comes up on the digital billboard. But it's really important to people, especially if you don't have, like if you already have a team of people, you're like, all right, I have a plumber, I have an electrician, I've been a homeowner for a long time, so we already have all those people. What if you just moved to a new area? What if you're a first-time home buyer and you're saying like, oh, well, yeah, what do you do when something breaks down, right? Well, Ace Hardware Home Services is what you do, because the power of the Ace brand now helping you at home, helping you everything that you need. Let's say that the heater goes on a Saturday afternoon. What do? They have emergency services. What if you just need basic maintenance, right? You should get the heater, your HVAC done twice a year. They have someone for you, right? Ace Hardware Home Services. They bring experience, local plumbers, local techs that handle everything from repairs and seasonal maintenance to installation and upgrades, understanding goals. They know the job isn't completed until you're satisfied. That's Ace Hardware Home Services. So if you have an issue, leaky pipe, a faucet that needs to be fixed, right? Heating, cooling, electrical work, plumbing, whatever it is, Ace Hardware Home Services brings helpful home for you. AceHardwareHomeServices.com to get started on your next project. All right, there you go. Just a fun night last night. Saquon Barkley, amazing. Eagles defense, amazing. Jake Elliott, not amazing. Tyler Zuli, 14-19 this year.
Yeah, it wasn't a great day.
Well, listen, it's good in the NFL to, if you're shaky on your kicker, you don't use your kicker as much. He's only kicked 19 field goals this year, but you're going to need a tough kick in a tough spot. Jake Elliott's been one of the best kickers in the NFL over the last however many, since he came to the Eagles, right? You could count on him. 50-yard field goals you weren't worried about. Big kicks in the fourth quarter you weren't worried about. Now I'm officially worried. 14-19 on the season, 0 for 4 from 50 yards this year. And that's after he made 71% of his 50-yarders in his career before this. And I pulled that from Reuben Frank of NBC Sports Philadelphia. His 5 misses this year equal his total number of misses from 22 and 23, the last 2 seasons. He was 50 of 55 in those 2 years. He's 14-19 this year. This is a problem, man. And you hope that it's just one of these things, and boom, you move off of it. But to me, he missed wide left on everything last night. Everything's wide left. So I'm not a kicking guru. There's something mechanical. When you look at him after these kicks, he looks like he's swimming in his own head. And he's thinking about it. When you go up there, and it's like this with any sport. When you go up, when you're a pitcher and you're a starting pitcher and you're trying to aim instead of just throwing and not thinking about it, that's trouble. When you go out there in basketball and like I'm obviously a 3-point sniper, so I know this. But if you're thinking about your shot while you're shooting it, you're in trouble. And if you're up there and you're kicking and you're lining up and here comes the snap and you're thinking, oh bleep, oh bleep, oh bleep, oh bleep, or whatever. If you're thinking about it, you're in trouble. He's thinking about it right now. We've seen it with kickers, man. We've seen guys go from great kickers to they're getting released. And I'm not telling you Jake Elliott's going to get released. And I've seen him go through a stretch at least once before in his career. Tyler, I don't know if you remember this, but I remember people, and I remember me being like, what's up with Jake, man? Like, this ain't good. And then he corrected it pretty quick. But you know, the one thing right now that I'm worried about with this team is Jake Elliott. Because if you can't be missing extra points. That could have been a big spot last night in that game. So are you as worried as me with Jake Elliott?
You know, it's funny. Last night, I think in the moment I was. Last night I was probably more reactionary, a little more visceral, a little more emotional. So I was like, you know, Bob making jokes about, oh well, if they cut him after next year, it's only a $5 million. And of course, it was just me being mad and me being kind of facetious. I think last night, I think overall this season, he's been okay. Last night, he was not particularly good. You're right. It did look like everything was pushing left. Maybe it was a plant thing. Maybe it was a setup thing. I don't know exactly what it was. I think today I woke up a little bit more calm, and I think the reason probably being is because they won the game and they did it in a pretty convincing fashion. You know, I know it's going to say it was an 8-point win, but they scored with, 30 seconds left?
Yeah, that was a garbage.
You know, so I think today
Absolutely.
I wake up a little bit more level-headed with Jake Elliott and realize, yeah, it was a bad day yesterday, and I think this will probably correct itself at some point. I mean, I don't know if that means that they'll be a little bit more hesitant to send him out for these longer field goals like they, have been accustomed to. But I think overall he's at like 76% now on the season in terms of field goals made. It's not great, but I think I woke up this morning a little bit more conscious of the fact that it felt like it was one bad game as opposed to like this is a sign of the times.
Right. All right. Yeah. I don't know. I'm ready to put it in the past. That's for sure. But
yeah, I agree. I mean, I think if it becomes a trend, then you have to have a conversation. But I think this particular game was an exceptionally bad one for him, and I'm going to allow it to play on face value for now until I get more information onto is this a trend or not.
Well, what I've learned with you is you're a level-headed Eagles fan, Tyler Zilli. I'm not. I'm very much emotional and reactive.
By the way, I do, and not to pertinent to the conversation that we were talking about right now, but just from a little bit ago, there are currently, from the 2010 NFL draft, there are currently 9 players who are still listed as active players. There were 257 players, including 2 players from the supplemental draft that were selected in 2010. 9 of those guys are still considered active players. Of those 9, 3 have seen snaps this year. Linval Joseph has been in 9 games for the Dallas Cowboys this year.
Really? He's a Cowboy.
He has 1 sack, 6 tackles, 1 forced fumble. The other 2 that have playing time this season. Oh, excuse me. There's actually 4 because Jerry Hughes has appeared in 5 games for Houston this year.
Right.
He has 3 tackles for the Texans. The other 2 are Trent Williams, who is almost assuredly a Hall of Famer, and Brandon Graham.
It's unbelievable.
That's it. That's the list.
I think everybody needs to, a lot of times when you're watching something, you don't, not that we don't appreciate Brandon, you know what I mean? But like right now we are watching the tail end of an all-time Eagles career.
Sure.
Ryan Howard, what he did in that 4 or 5 year stretch is all-time Major League Baseball. He had Babe Ruth numbers, right? And it didn't last as long with him. But right now with Brandon Graham, I think he gets his number retired.
So to put it into perspective for you, Clay Harbor, who does a good job on the media circuit now, tweeted out, Brandon Graham and I were drafted together in 2010. I wake up with lower back pain. He's still doing stuff like this. Incredible. If this is his last year and he's at peace with it, good for him.
Good for him. And we will give you a celebration like you deserve. If you decided that this was going to be your last year because you felt like it should be your last year, like because everybody's kind of saying it, and the Eagles maybe you're trying to say it or whatever, don't retire. And I don't know this because Brandon's never said this to me because I haven't seen him in a while. But, like, I don't know if he's done playing football. I hope he's not because I would love to see him play again if he wants to play. Would love another year with him. All right, so this was a theme a couple days ago. But Nick Sirianni continues to put himself in elite category when it comes to being a head coach of the Eagles. Over the last 30 years, only 5 coaches have opened with a record of 8-2 in 3 straight years. We mentioned it earlier. It's never happened in Eagles franchise history. Here they are. Sean Payton with the Saints, Bill Belichick, Tony Dungy, Mike Shanahan, and Nick Sirianni. And that was Mike Shanahan of the Broncos that won Super Bowls, not Mike Shanahan.
Every one of those coaches has at least one Super Bowl to their title.
Yep. And they are are they all Hall of Famers? I don't know the criteria for coaches and how they get in. Obviously Belichick. Tony Dungy.
So Shanahan, I think,
whether they're Hall of Famers or not, they're everybody agrees they're top NFL coaches of their era. And Nick Sirianni, I don't know. I don't know if he's ever going to get the respect. I don't know if I'm ever going to truly believe. But you can't argue with the results, man. You can't. This team is rolling right now. And were there any real decisions to be made last night going for it on 4th down or going for 2 or something like that? There really weren't. Right? So when those things happen, he's got to be able to push the right buttons, which he's kind of struggled with this year. But got to fix that first half, man. You face a good team, defenses can only do so much against good offenses. And this Eagles defense has been tremendous. You can't be scoring 3 points in the first half, man. You just can't. It's going to come back to bite you in the ass. All right, the broadcast last night. I am a big Al Michaels fan. I think he's probably the best of all time when it comes to play-by-play, just because he's so versatile. I believe he did ABC's. They had Monday Night Baseball at one point. When Monday Night Football became so big, I know Keith Jackson did Monday Night Baseball for a while, but Al was a big play-by-play, probably like 40 years ago doing baseball. But we knew he did, the Do You Believe in Miracles? Yes. Al Michaels is as good as they come. I'm a huge fan. And he is not only totally cooked, he's really aggravating at this point. I couldn't stand listening to him last night. And I love Kirk Herbstreit too. Love Herbstreit. And I don't think he's particularly good with Al because he's not butting in and bringing up things that need to be said. Prime example. And I'm sure this drove a lot of people crazy last night because I was yelling at the TV screen with my children and wife asleep. I was yelling at the TV screen downstairs. I said, the game's not effing over. Stop saying the game's over. He had this cavalier attitude where he's like, oh, well, this game's over. So, dude, it's not likely Washington's going to win. The percentage would probably be very low, but they were driving. There was a decent amount of time left in the game, and it was a 2-possession game, and they still had timeouts. Now, the biggest problem was Washington. They took a lot of time to score that touchdown. And I got to look at the play-by-play here. But it took a lot of time to score that touchdown. That game was far from over. They had, let me see. I wish I could see. They had the ball at the Eagles 24 with 2 minutes to go. So they were at the Eagles 24 with 2 minutes to go. And then they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 plays before they scored a touchdown. Is that it? No, that can't be it. But anyway, like you know what I mean. This game was not over. Not over at all. And they're not even paying attention to the game anymore. And it's like, Al, the game's not over. Al, the game's not over. If they score a touchdown here, they're going to have a chance at an onside kick, or they could potentially kick the ball off depending on how much time was left. So he's driving me nuts. That's where Herbstreit. First of all, Al Michaels, his job right there isn't to tell you the game's over. His job right there is to sell the audience real urgency. Hey, this game's not over yet. If Washington scores right here, there's a minute 40 to go, and they have 2 timeouts or 3 timeouts. They have 2 timeouts. They could potentially kick off and still get the ball, or it's going to set up for an onside kick. But this game's not over, folks. If they score right here, instead, he's not even talking about the game anymore. And that's where Herb Street needs to butt in and say, not show him up, but say, all right, Al, well, listen, we have 2 minutes to go. It's a 4th and 2 for Washington. If they can score quickly here, there's still a lot of time left, and it becomes a 1-possession game. And Zach Ertz gets an amazing catch to make it an 8-point game. At that point, it's the onside kick or bust. But it's their job to sell you that this game isn't over, because the game wasn't over. And it was driving me nuts. And as an Eagle fan, it drove me even crazier, because it's like, would you shut up? This game is not over. Like, you know me. If I chewed my fingernails, I'd be biting my fingernails off, because I'm worried that the Eagles are going to find a way to lose this game. I mean, they did just have a Hail Mary 2 weeks ago. Or was it 2 weeks ago now? Yeah, 2 weeks ago. So, did you have the same feeling, Tyler Zuli, when you were watching the game?
I thought it was odd that he kept saying it. Like, you say it once, and maybe it's just a, kind of, you're expecting the Eagles to win the game. But I thought it was kind of strange that he kept repeating it and saying, if this game, if they score, there is an onside kick opportunity. They did. They scored 2. And again, it felt like a garbage time touchdown, now that we can look back on it. But in the moment, it felt like, if they recover, there was only 2 onside kicks recovered all year this season so far. If they make it 3, then crazier things have happened.
Right.
It was odd that he said it multiple times during the broadcast.
With the 2-minute warning, they ran 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 plays. Or if they would have scored right away, there would have been significant time left, and that game was not over. That really, just in general, he's obviously lost his fastball. But even the touchdowns that he calls, if you're not watching the game, you wouldn't even know they were a touchdown, because he's just not giving you those. Like Mike Tirico, I think Mike Tirico is very good. Like Mike Tirico lets you know when there's a touchdown, and you feel like you're watching a big game. Al Michaels is kind of like his pace is very. I guess this is what happens. Is he 80 yet, Al Michaels? And I don't think he's done. I don't think Al is a guy that wants an award tour. Yeah, he's 80. Just turned 80. He doesn't seem like the type of guy that's going to announce it, so then every week it's another homage to Al Michaels. I don't think he's that kind of guy, because I do like him. I do think he's awesome. Plus, you know what one of his most notable things of all time is? And it's not as a broadcaster. It's during the O.J. Simpson chase, when they're parked in the driveway in Brentwood, and Peter Jennings is on the phone, and it's a very tense situation where O.J.'s still in the Bronco, and someone calls in by the name of Mr. Higgins, who claims to be a neighbor of O.J. Simpson, and he's watching what's happening. And they put him on, and he says that O.J.'s in the back of the Bronco drinking orange juice, and he's very, very scared. And then Peter Jennings says, "Oh, well, thank you, Mr. Higgins." Al Michaels comes out of nowhere. "Peter, I just want everybody to know that was a farcical phone call. That was not a real caller." Because at the end he said, "in a ba ba booey to y'all." It was a Howard Stern prank call in one of the biggest moments in television history. And Al Michaels came flying on the air to let everybody know that it was not real, and Mr. Higgins was not watching. Oh man, it's so good. All right, so it's quickly on a scale of 1 to 10, Tyler Zuli, how are you feeling about the Eagles right now?
I'm at like a 9. I feel really good right now. I mean, I think that the only thing that holds me back from being a 10 is, I think Detroit is rolling currently. They're a very, very good football team. They're creative. They're innovative. It would be a very fun game. But other than that, I think, I'm at like a 9. I feel really good. Yeah,
I'm right with you. And shout out to everybody that's watching on TV right now. If you want to watch more of the show, get to allphly.com. Yeah, believe me, by Monday, I may be at an 8.5 or an 8. Because Saquon Barkley's usage may not be something that we're worried about right now. I'm worried about it right now. It's a lot. And can you dial it back and get him some rest here in some of these other games? Yeah, you hope so. A lot of carries for a dude that has had an injury history. And I mean, he's gotten banged up during games. He's come out of games because like when he did the reverse leap, He got banged up on that play. He was out for a couple games. Last week he had hurt his arm, and they were over there looking at him. Obviously, he bounces back, but he's taking some punishment. He's sore after games. When you get 26 carries in an NFL game in 2024, man, that doesn't happen. Leads the league in carries, but this defense, man, the way that they're able to run the ball, the look and the feel of this team right now is something special. It really is. Tyler, let's get to our picks right here as we close up the program, because you are 12 games over 500. I still don't believe when you put this graphic up. I still don't. I think you're wrong. I think I have a better record than this. Am I really 4 games under 500 still? I mean, I've been going 2-2 every week, so I guess I could be. Seems like I've been 2-2 for 2 weeks in a row. But anyway, all right. So this is one of these.
You're 4 games over 500. Or no, you're 2 games over 500. Excuse me. You're 8-2 on the Eagles. You're 13-7. Oh, you mean just in the NFL?
Yeah.
Oh,
My
okay.
overall record. I don't care about the Eagles' record. I care about we do have a good beat on what the Eagles are doing this year. No, the total. Because then if you look at it, I'm doing terrible. So if you take the Eagles' wins out of there, that means I have 5 wins on the season.
No. The 13-17 is your picks are your NFL separate picks. You are 21-19, including your 3 picks every week and the Eagles selection. If you take the Eagles selection out of it, your 3 picks every week, through the first 10 weeks, you are 13-17.
Okay.
But you're 21-19 if you
I understand it now, but I guess what I'm saying, if I'm tricked by it, then a lot of people out there are saying, like, oh, Marks doesn't know bleep. I do. Anyway, I don't know about this week, though. This is Tyler and I talking before the show, we're like, I think if I picked every game this week, I would have an over 500 record. It's which games you're going to pick, because there's not a lot of great ones. So I'm going to start in Miami. The Dolphins are hosting the Raiders. Come on down, Desmond Ridder. He gets to start for the Las Vegas this week. Miami's only 3-6 on the season, but this feels like a blowout to me. I'll take the Dolphins minus 7.5 over the Las Vegas Raiders. All right, battle for the AFC North. 7-2 Steelers, 7-3 Ravens. Why are the Baltimore Ravens 3.5 point favorites over the Steelers? The Steelers are at home. All these games are field goal games. Go back and look at the history of these teams. They're all very close games. This line went from 3 to 3.5, which means there's obviously money being bet on Baltimore, and they're not running away from it, but they're adjusting. Odds makers are telling you they don't believe in Russell Wilson. That's my opinion on it. They've seen him do well, and he's managed games, and he throws a good deep ball. But Russell Wilson is not the Russell Wilson of old that a lot of people remember. And Lamar's got to get off the schneid. He has not played well against the Steelers. This is the week I think they do it. I'm going to take the Ravens, and I'm going to buy it right now at 3.5 because I don't know if it's going to go up to 4. You could wait to see if it goes back down to 3, but I like the Ravens, so I'm going to get them at 3.5 right now. Vikings have won 2 straight. Remember, they lost 2, then they won 2. But Sam Darnold, and I all year I was waiting to do it. Tyler, all year I was waiting because he looked really good at the beginning of the year, and he's done this before. He's back to being Sam Darnold. He sucks. It's only a matter of time. But you know who sucks worse? Will Levis. And he's in line to be the starter for the Titans this week. So with that being said, because Minnesota's defense is very good, and their offense is good when you don't have to rely on Sam Darnold throwing the football. They won ugly last week. I think they win ugly again this week, but they'll get more points and they'll cover. I'll take Minnesota -6 over the Fighting Will Levises of Tennessee. Tyler, you and your spiffy 12-game over 500 record. What do you got?
Man, you're making me feel like I should be apologizing for this record.
No,
these are my picks this week. Matt LaFleur is 10-0 against the Chicago Bears in his tenure as the Green Bay Packers head coach. Not only do I think that continues, but after the Bears fire Shane Waldron, which might be a good thing for the Bears, but they fire Shane Waldron, there seems to be some discontent in the locker room. I don't know how happy they are with not only just the play calling, but the quarterback play. They've struggled to put sustained drives together. I think in the last 2 weeks, they've gone under 17 points each of the last 2 weeks. Even though this is a game on the road, it's a division game, the Bears kind of need this one to save face, or their season may end up getting flushed down the toilet. I think the Packers are just a substantially better team than the Bears. Even on the road, I will take them to win this game by a touchdown. I'm going to take the -5.5. This one was an intriguing one for me. The Falcons and the Broncos. The Falcons lose last week to the Saints. The Broncos lose on the blocked field goal attempt so the Chiefs stay undefeated. I think if I'm picking one unit of the four, Falcons offense, defense, Broncos offense, defense, the best of the four groups is the Broncos defense. And this being an under 3-point line tells me Vegas slightly favors the Atlanta Falcons in this one. I'm going to go against Vegas on this one. I'm going to take the Broncos and their defense. I'm going to take Denver -2.5 to win this game and get back over 500.
It is an interesting line. I agree with you. I was thinking the same way. Like that's a slight lean towards the Falcons. I agree.
And then the last one, I think I'm just going to continue. I talked about riding Detroit because they've been so good this year. I think the inverse can also be true. You can ride the bad teams. You did it with Tennessee this week. I'm going to keep doing it with the Dallas Cowboys. I'm going to take the Houston Texans. So when I made this graphic, they were -7. The line's up to 7.5 now. I think they're going to win this game by double digits. I know Houston's not looked as sharp as many have expected. They're 6-4 now on the season after they do lose that game to Detroit last week. I think C.J. Stroud bounces back. Nico Collins is expected to play. I think that's massive for the entirety of the team. I am going to take the Texans, and my bad, the Texans are actually on the road in this one. It's at Dallas, night game Sunday Night Football, but I am going to take the Texans. It's -7, -7.5. I don't think it really matters. I'm going to take Houston either way.
Earlier in the year, you were riding the Commanders to wins, and you kept saying, I'm going to ride Washington. I'm going to ride Washington. And then you stop because the wheels fall off of the team.
Yeah, a little bit.
Right now, it does feel like the time to ride the Cowboys, to lose.
Sure. Better to continue to play against them.
Can't wait to watch that game. And normally when you have a bad team with a bad backup quarterback, you don't want to watch that on prime time. People will be tuning in droves to watch the Cowboys struggle. I can't wait. Jake Elliott and Cooper Rush. All right, everybody. I got to run. I got to go pick up my daughter. But we appreciate everybody. Subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe. Boom, boom, boom. Hit that button. Also, if you're at home and you're like, hey, I missed the show today, remember, we're available on Xfinity. Just tell your remote PHLY. Same thing with Roku TV. Same thing with Samsung Plus. We're available on your TV. And the audio podcast, I'll listen to the audio podcast once a week to see what it sounds like for the ears only. Audio version of the podcast is available wherever you find your podcasts. Just search Philly Philly with Jon Marks. Can't wait. It's going to be a fun week next week. Enjoy your weekend. Everybody, see you back at 8 a.m. on Monday. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.